The desert was silent when the human man named Evan walked across it. The sun was high, the sand was bright, and the wind carried only dust. Evan moved slowly, saving his energy. He had been traveling alone for days, searching for a safe path through this strange alien world. He thought he was alone, until he heard soft footsteps behind him. At first, he ignored them. Maybe it was the wind. Maybe it was his tired mind. But the steps grew closer, light and careful, like someone afraid to be heard. Evan stopped walking. His hand moved near his belt, where a small knife was hidden. When he turned around, he froze. A woman stood behind him. She was not human. Her skin was soft blue, her hair long and dark, her clothes torn and covered in dust. She looked weak, thin, and scared. Her eyes were large and full of fear. She held her hands close to her chest and breathed fast, as if she had been running for a long time. Evan spoke slowly. "Are you hurt?" The woman shook her head, but her legs trembled. She took one step toward him, then suddenly dropped to her knees. Evan was shocked. "Hey, what are you doing?" She lowered her head and pressed her hands together tightly, like she was praying. Her voice came out soft and broken. "Human, please marry me." Evan stared at her, confused. "What? No, stand up." "You don't have to do this." But she didn't stand. She kept her head down. Her whole body shook. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I have no one. If I return alone, they will kill me." Evan felt a cold wave run through him. "Who will kill you?" "My clan," she said. "My people follow old law. A woman without a partner during migration is unfit. They leave her in the desert. They do not look back." Evan couldn't believe what he was hearing. "So you came here looking for a husband?" She nodded weakly. "A partner. A protector. Someone they cannot take me from." She slowly lifted her head. Her eyes looked desperate and full of fear. "I saw you from far away. Humans help. Humans show kindness. That is why I came." Evan stepped back, shaken by her words. "I can't just marry someone I don't know." Her expression broke. Tears filled her eyes. She bowed her head again. "Then I will die today." Something in her tone made Evan look around the desert. The land was too quiet, too empty, too open. He felt like someone was watching. He looked again at the woman, kneeling in the sand. Her shoulders were thin. Her arms were shaking. She looked like someone who had already lost everything. "What is your name?" Evan asked softly. "Lyra," she whispered. Before he could say anything else, a sharp noise echoed across the desert. Clink, metal striking stone. Evan turned fast. On a far ridge, dark shapes were moving. Not animals. Not travelers. People. Or something like people. Lyra gasped and grabbed Evan's sleeve. "Hunters," she whispered. "My clan's hunters. They found me." The figures were slowly coming down the rocks, holding long weapons made of bone and metal. The sunlight reflected off their armor. They walked with purpose. Evan felt his heart beat harder. "Why are they here?" he asked. "To take me back," Lyra said. "To punish me. To leave me in the sands." She looked at him with wide, terrified eyes. "Unless I am not alone. Unless you stand with me." Evan swallowed hard. He was only a traveler, a mechanic, a man with no weapons, no plan, no reason to fight strangers. But when he looked at Lyra again, he couldn't walk away. She wasn't lying. She wasn't pretending. She was begging. Because her life truly depended on it. The hunters were getting closer. Evan could hear their boots crushing the sand. He could feel the tension in the air. He could see Lyra shaking more and more. She whispered, "Human, please save me." Evan took a long breath. He didn't know her. He didn't understand her world. But he understood fear. He understood someone asking for help. Slowly, he stepped in front of Lyra. She gasped softly, surprised. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know what decision he had just made. But he stood between her and the hunters, his back straight, his hand on his small knife. The hunters stopped a short distance away. One of them stepped forward. His voice was cold. "Human, give us the woman." Evan didn't move. "She is with me," he said. The hunters looked at each other, confused, then angry. Lyra whispered behind him, "You chose me?" Evan nodded slightly. "I did." The desert wind rose, blowing sand around them. The hunters raised their weapons. Lyra held her breath, and the story of both their lives changed in that single moment. Evan's heart beat fast as the hunters stared at him. The desert wind blew sand around their feet. Lyra stayed behind him, holding his shirt gently, as if even touching him gave her a little courage. The lead hunter stepped forward. His armor was dark gray, marked with white symbols. His eyes were sharp and cold. He pointed a long spear toward Lyra. "She is property of the clan," he said. "She broke the old law. Step aside, human." Evan stood firm. "She's with me now." The hunter narrowed his eyes. "Do you understand what you say?" He tapped his spear on the ground. "If she is with you, then you accept her life and her punishment." Lyra whispered, "Do not speak to them. They twist words." But Evan didn't step back. He held his ground. Something inside him wouldn't let him move aside. Not after seeing the fear in Lyra's eyes. Not after hearing her cry for help. Another hunter, smaller but faster, moved to the side and tried to reach Lyra indirectly. Evan quickly shifted and blocked that path too. The hunters growled in frustration. "This is not your fight," the leader said. "Humans do not interfere with our laws." Evan replied, "Then your laws need changing." The hunters didn't like that answer. The leader gave a sharp whistle. All three hunters raised their weapons. Lyra grabbed Evan's arm. "Please," she whispered. "We must run. They will not stop." Evan nodded. "Then let's go." Before the hunters could strike, Evan pulled Lyra's hand and dashed across the sand. Lyra ran beside him, though she stumbled with every few steps from exhaustion. The hunters shouted and chased them. Spears flew over the sand, some hitting the ground close to Evan's feet. Evan didn't look back. He pulled Lyra toward a group of rocky hills ahead. They ran until their breaths burned and their legs ached. Finally, they reached a narrow crack between two stones, just wide enough to enter. "Inside," Evan said. They squeezed through, and darkness surrounded them. The hunters' footsteps grew louder, then faded as the narrow path twisted deeper into the rocks. After some minutes, Evan slowed and let Lyra rest. She collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. "Are you okay?" Evan asked. Lyra nodded weakly. "Yes, I think so." Evan sat beside her. He looked at her dusty hair, her tired face, and her trembling hands. She looked like someone who had been running for days. Lyra slowly lifted her wrist. Small glowing mark was burned into her skin. Evan frowned. "What's that?" "A clan mark," Lyra said softly. "It shows I am without partner. It shows I failed my duty." "Failed?" Evan repeated. "How can someone fail something they didn't choose?" Lyra looked down. "Our old law says a woman must join migration with a partner. If she fails, she is weak. Useless. A burden." Her voice cracked. "My parents died last season. I had no one to stand with, no one to protect me. The clan said I must stay behind. They said the desert would judge me." Evan clenched his jaw. "So you escaped?" She nodded. "I ran for 2 nights. I hid in dry wells behind rocks." Her voice grew small. I thought I would die. Then I saw your light at sunrise today. I followed you. Evan stared at her for a few seconds. He felt something heavy in his chest. Anger, sadness, something mixed. Lyra, you don't deserve this. She gave a weak smile. Humans say that. My people do not. Evan rubbed his forehead. But why marriage? Why did you ask for that? Lyra looked at him carefully, almost shyly. For my clan, a partner means life. If a woman has someone who stands with her, the clan cannot harm her. The old law protects bonded pairs. So if you and I were— Yes, she whispered. They cannot touch me. Evan felt his heartbeat shake for a moment. But you were ready to marry a stranger? Lyra lowered her head. When someone stands alone, even a stranger can become hope. The cave became quiet. Only a distant whistle of wind echoed outside. After a moment, Evan asked, Why didn't you find someone from your own people? Lyra shook her head. Our men choose strong women, rich women, healthy women. I am none of those. That doesn't make you worthless, Evan said. She looked at him with gentle surprise, like she had never heard those words before. Evan continued, You're brave. You ran through the desert alone. You faced hunters. That's not weakness. For the first time, Lyra's eyes softened. She wasn't trembling anymore. She looked calmer, but the calm didn't last long. A loud metallic clank echoed from the cave entrance. Lyra gasped. They found us. Evan stood fast. He could see faint shadows stretching across the stone floor. We need a deeper place, Lyra whispered. There is an old cave network here. Humans used it long ago. This path leads to an underground room. Go, Evan said. Lead the way. They moved deeper into the dark passages. The hunters' voices grew louder behind them. Evan asked, Why are they so determined to catch you? Lyra hesitated, then answered with pain in her voice, Because if a woman escapes her fate, it shames the whole clan. Evan felt anger burn inside him again. These laws are broken, he said. Lyra nodded sadly. Yes, but they are all my people have ever known. They reached a small hidden chamber. It was quiet and cool, with old stone carvings on the walls. Evan placed a blanket from his pack on the ground. Lyra sat and wrapped it around herself. For the first time, she looked a little safe. Evan, she whispered, thank you for choosing me today. Evan sat beside her, listening for any sound of the hunters. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing. He wasn't going to let them take her. The cave chamber was dark and quiet, but neither Evan nor Lyra felt safe. The hunters' angry voices echoed somewhere in the tunnels behind them, bouncing off the stone like cold whispers. Lyra sat close to the wall, her hands tied around the blanket Evan had given her. Evan stood near the entrance, listening carefully. He could hear the hunters' footsteps, slow, heavy, searching. Lyra whispered, They will not leave. They will search every shadow. Evan turned to her. Then we stay ahead of them. A sudden metallic clang echoed through the tunnels. The sound was loud enough to shake dust from the ceiling. Lyra gasped. Evan grabbed her hand gently. Come on. We keep moving. They slipped out of the chamber and into a narrow path that led deeper underground. The walls were close, rough stone. Sometimes Lyra had to squeeze sideways to fit through. Evan kept glancing over his shoulder, making sure the hunters weren't in sight yet, but their voices grew closer. Find the unfit girl, one hunter growled. She brings shame to the clan, another said. Lyra's steps faltered. They speak of me like I am a thing. To them, maybe you are, Evan said gently. But to me, you're a person. And you deserve more than this. Lyra's eyes softened, but fear still shook her voice. Why do you help me, Evan? You owe me nothing. Maybe, he said. But that doesn't matter. They reached a wider chamber lit by cracks in the ceiling. Thin beams of afternoon sunlight fell across the sand. Old stone ruins stood half buried, signs that long ago, humans or another species had used this place. Lyra paused and touched the carvings gently. These are ancient marks. They speak of people who lived before my clan. Evan looked around. Whoever they were, they liked hiding places. Before she could answer, a sharp hiss cut the silence. A spear flew past Evan's head and struck the stone wall with a hard crack. Lyra screamed softly. The hunters were here. Run! Evan shouted. He grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her down another passage. The hunters rushed in behind them, shouting, their footsteps pounding like thunder. Evan and Lyra sprinted through the twisting tunnels. Each turned darker and narrower than the last. Evan, Lyra gasped. They are faster. I know. 2 hunters suddenly appeared from a side path, blocking the way forward. Evan stopped so fast, Lyra crashed into his back. The hunters raised their weapons. Lyra clutched Evan's arm. They will take me. They will kill me in the sands. Then they will come for you. Evan's jaw tightened. Something inside him snapped, not fear, but determination. No, he said, they won't. He looked around quickly. The walls were uneven, the floor sandy and loose. A short slope led up to a ledge above the hunters' heads. Climb, Evan whispered. Go, Lyra shook her head. I can't leave you. You're not leaving me, he said. You're getting to safety. The hunters stepped closer. Evan pushed Lyra toward the slope. Go, she hesitated, then obeyed. She began climbing fast, but clumsily, her hands slipping on loose sand. Evan stepped forward, putting himself between her and the hunters. One hunter snarled, Move aside, human. Evan took a deep breath. He didn't have a weapon except his small knife, and using it would be suicide. But he had something else, Dot. He had his strength, Dot, as the hunter swung his spear. Evan grabbed the shaft with both hands, twisted hard, and slammed the hunter against the wall. The second hunter rushed in, but Evan ducked and kicked sand into his eyes, then pushed him back. Dot, it wasn't a fair fight, but it was enough. Lyra reached the ledge. Evan, come! Evan backed away from the hunters, blocking their path, then leaped for the slope. Lyra grabbed his wrist and helped pull him up. The hunters jumped after them, but the loose sand made them slip, buying Evan and Lyra seconds to escape. They crawled through a narrow tunnel until it opened into a high cavern filled with old stone pillars. Evan landed on the sand, breathing hard. That was close. Lyra knelt beside him, touching his shoulder gently. Why did you fight them? You could have died. He looked at her. Because no one should be chased like that for staying alive. Lyra's lips trembled. She looked away as tears formed in her eyes. My clan says I am unfit, weak, a failure. You ran through a desert alone, Evan said. You survived hunters. You asked a stranger for help, even when you were afraid. That's not weakness. Lyra stayed silent, letting his words sink deep. But the moment didn't last. A deep echo thundered through the cavern. The hunters had reached the far side. Their shadows stretched long across the sand. Lyra whispered, They won't stop. They will chase us until they take me. Evan stood, breathing hard but steady. Then we keep running. There has to be a way out. There is, Lyra said quietly. The storm plains. That sounds bad. It is, she admitted. But it is the only path they fear. Evan nodded. Then that's where we go. For the first time, Lyra reached out and held his hand tightly, not out of fear alone, but trust. Thank you, she whispered, for standing for me. Evan squeezed her hand back. Let's survive this together. They stepped into the darkness, with hunters close behind, and a deadly storm world waiting ahead. Evan and Lyra stepped out of the cavern and into a sky that looked ready to break open. Thick gray clouds gathered above the desert, rolling like giant waves. The air felt heavy, full of electricity. A deep rumble echoed far away, the kind that warns travelers to turn back, but they had no choice. Behind them, the hunters' footsteps were getting louder. Evan held Lyra's hand tightly. "You said the hunters fear this place, the storm plains. Why?" Lyra looked at the sky, fear growing in her eyes. "Because storms here are alive. The winds cut like blades. Lightning falls like rain. Only those with strong hearts survive." Evan exhaled slowly. "Great. Sounds friendly." Lyra gave a weak smile despite the fear. "It is better than being taken." She was right. Evan had seen the hunters' faces, cold, merciless, full of cruel purpose. He would rather walk into a storm than hand her over. They moved across the open plains. The wind picked up, blowing sand in swirling patterns. Lyra used a cloth to cover her mouth. "We must reach the ruin ahead," she said, pointing to a broken structure far away. "It's old, but strong enough to hide from the worst storm." Evan nodded. "Let's get there fast." They hurried across the plain. The wind grew louder, like a giant breathing in anger. Loose sand stung Evan's face. Lyra struggled to keep up, her steps uneven from exhaustion. Every few minutes she stumbled, but Evan caught her each time. Finally Lyra whispered, "You could run faster without me." Evan shook his head. "I'm not leaving you. Not now. Not ever." Lyra's eyes softened, as if those words warmed her more than any fire. She kept walking, pushing her tired body forward. But the storm had other plans. A sudden roar crashed above them. A lightning bolt slammed into the sand only a few meters away, exploding in white light. Lyra screamed and grabbed Evan's arm. "We must hurry." She cried. The ruin was close now, an old stone building half buried in sand. Its walls were cracked, but still standing. A perfect shelter if they reached it in time. But then, a familiar shout echoed behind them. The hunters had reached the plains. They stood on a ridge, staring down with their weapons raised. The lead hunter yelled, "There is no escape. Give us the weak one." Lyra's heart froze. Evan stepped in front of her, shielding her from their view. "Keep moving," he whispered. They ran again, fighting against the wind. More lightning struck the ground around them. The hunters hesitated. The storm scared them, but they still followed. The wind screamed louder, lifting sand into the air like a wall. Lyra coughed, unable to see clearly. "Evan, I cannot breathe." Evan wrapped an arm around her shoulders to guide her. Just a little more. Another bolt of lightning hit the plain, lighting up the ruin ahead. They were close, 15 meters away, but the storm hit full force. Wind slammed into them so hard, Evan almost fell. Lyra cried out as the gust pushed her sideways. Evan grabbed her and pulled her against his chest, shielding her from the sand. "Stay behind me," he shouted. The storm howled. Sand attacked their skin like thousands of needles. Evan pushed forward step by step, holding Lyra tightly so she wouldn't get swept away. Lyra pressed her forehead against his back, her voice trembling. "Evan, I am slowing you down." "You're alive," he said. "That's what matters." The ruin was now only 5 meters away. Evan leaned forward, almost crawling, pulling Lyra with him. Another lightning strike smashed into the ground behind them, sending a shock wave through the sand. They tumbled forward, but kept moving. Finally, Evan grabbed the edge of the ruined stone doorway and pulled them both inside. The moment they entered, the wind outside roared even louder, slamming against the walls. But inside, there was silence. Not peaceful silence, tense, heavy silence. Evan and Lyra collapsed to the floor, breathing hard. Lyra's hands shook as she touched the stone wall. "We made it." Evan nodded. "Yeah, barely." She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes filled with relief. "And something deeper." She moved closer, gently placing a hand on his chest. "You keep saving me," she whispered. "You deserve saving," he said. Lyra lowered her head, her voice small. "My whole life." "No one ever said that to me." Evan sighed and pushed a strand of dark hair away from her face. "Then your whole life has been unfair." Lyra's cheeks warmed. She looked away for a second, then slowly spoke again. "Evan, now that we're safe for a moment, I want to tell you something." He leaned closer. "What is it?" She touched her wrist where the clan mark glowed faintly. "My people do not care who we love," she said. "They only care who stands with us. A partner means safety, but it can also mean something more." She looked into his eyes. "When I first begged you, I begged because I was afraid. But now, I am not afraid because you are here." Evan felt his chest tighten. Not from fear, from something different. Something warmed out before he could answer. Thunder shook the ruin. Then came another sound. Footsteps. The hunters had reached the ruin. Lyra grabbed Evan's hand tightly, her fear returning. "They followed us." Evan stood slowly, his eyes hard. "Then let them try." The storm outside raged like an angry beast. But inside this ruin, a human and an alien stood together, not as strangers anymore, but as partners against the world. The night wind cut across the dead desert as the human stood in front of the broken alien woman, his feet firm in the sand. Behind her, the clan elders marched forward with burning staffs, sharp blades and hard eyes filled with anger. They wanted to take her back, punish her, and break her spirit forever, but the human did not move. He knew this was the moment everything would change. The woman trembled behind him, her hands shaking, her voice soft like dust on the wind. "Human, you should run," she whispered. He looked back and said only one line, calm and sure. "I'm not leaving you," the elder shouted. "She is unfit. She cannot be married. Step aside, outsider." But the human stepped forward instead. His shadow stretched long in the firelight, his voice strong but steady. "She asked me for protection," he said, "and I gave my word." The first elder attacked. He charged with a burning staff, flames trailing behind him. The human dodged, grabbed the wrist, and slammed him into the sand. The clan gasped. No outsider had ever touched an elder before. Two more came, one with a blade, one with a chain. The human blocked the chain with his arm. Pain burning his skin, he pushed forward anyway, grabbed the attacker, and pulled him down. Then he turned to face the last warrior, a tall giant with a bone mask and eyes full of fury. The masked warrior roared and swung a heavy hammer. The ground shook with every step he took. The alien woman cried out, "Please, he will kill you." But the human only smiled. "Not today." The masked warrior struck first. The hammer crashed down like thunder. The human rolled. Sand exploding around him, he moved fast. Faster than the warrior expected. He dodged left, dodged right, and threw sand into the warrior's eyes. The giant stumbled, roaring. The human jumped forward, grabbed the hammer handle, and pulled with all his strength. The warrior fell to his knees. The hammer dropped. The desert went silent. The human picked up the hammer. It was heavy, too heavy for most aliens, but he lifted it with both hands. The clan fell into shock. They whispered, "Humans are stronger than we thought." The masked warrior rose again, but this time he did not attack. He bowed his head. "You have won," he said slowly, "by our law. She belongs to you now. The alien woman gasped and covered her mouth. She stepped forward, tears shaking in her eyes. "No," the human said, lowering the hammer. "She does not belong to me." He looked at her gently. "She belongs with me. If she chooses." The clan stared, confused. Humans were strange to them. Strong, brave, and full of choices they never understood. The woman shook her head, tears falling on the sand. "You? You still want me?" She asked. "I am poor, broken, unwanted." He took her hand. "You were never unwanted," he said softly. "You just needed someone to see you." The clan elders lowered their weapons. Their anger faded into silence. The masked warrior stepped aside, opening a path for them. "The desert accepts your bond," he declared. "And so do we." The alien woman fell to her knees. Crying, the human knelt with her and lifted her chin. "I don't need riches," he said. "I don't need status. I only need you.